Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. But now you all know me, but if not, my name's Mario. I put out videos primarily on clinical research, and this is going to be a clinical research video. And it's going to be on a highly requested topic. And the question that I get asked in various forums is, what job in clinical research is right for me? Why did you go down the clinical research coordinator to CRA role? Should I be considering in-house roles or monitoring roles? Should I be considering trial management, data management, regulatory, quality assurance? What is the best role for me within clinical research? And I think to answer that, you need to know a little bit about the various roles and some of the considerations when you take each of these roles. So that's what this video is about. Before I get started, I need to remind you, as always, to please take a moment and smash that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. So, without further ado, let's start talking about some of the roles in clinical research. And I'm going to start with the basic site level, the clinical research coordinator. This is a great starting role in clinical research because at the site level, you become exposed to all the various things that go into running a trial. And this might depend a little bit at the site you're at. Some sites have it very segregated, some person doing consenting, data entry, regulatory, and you may only do one of those. But at a smaller site, you're going to do everything, and some larger sites, you also do everything. So that is the best position, in my humble opinion, to get a sense of what clinical research is like. The biggest downside of being at the site is there's very rarely any opportunity for career growth. The best thing you can do at the site level is become the director at the site level, but that takes many, many, many years, and there's no guarantee. And many times people are in that director role for decades, and they're the only person there. So it is not the greatest for career progression. It is why a lot of coordinators look to become CRAs or looking to go into project management. So that is something that I highly encourage new grads, somebody who recently graduated college, or someone that's looking to quickly transition into clinical research and get their hands dirty with learning all the basics of clinical research. I would not recommend the site level to most people who are looking to grow their career quickly and move into different roles. So once you become familiar with clinical research from the site level, you'd want to move on from the site. The only exception to this is some people at the end of a career go back to being in the site level. It's usually a more predictable job in terms of hours. You're going to work something along the lines of an 8 to 4, 9 to 5, something along those lines at the site. The hours are very predictable. So if you have a family or you're retired and you don't want to travel or you have some other concerns, the site level is great from the predictable schedule standpoint. All right, so that's the clinical research coordinator role. If you're interested in this kind of a role, you should be searching for clinical research coordinator. And if you have no experience, look for the number 1 or the designation 1 after the position. If you see something that says clinical research coordinator 1, these jobs generally don't require any experience. Most of them will say 6 months preferred, but a lot of places will take you on. And like I said, I think the best demographic for this is the new grad who's just graduated with a degree in biology, maybe wants to do this for a few years and go to med school or nursing school or PA school or something to that effect. So that is my recommendation for who should be looking at that role. The next role is going to be the clinical trial associate or CTA position. The CTA position is almost the equivalent of the coordinator role, but if you wanted to start on the CRO or sponsor end. So you'd be looking at that role from a similar demographic, new college graduate getting the basics of clinical research. You'll just be learning it from the other side. So whether you go into one or the other, that's really up to you. I prefer the site side because you get a little more of the patient interaction. You get to see a little more of how the site functions, but you'll learn similar things just from a different angle if you started a clinical trials associate. The job description, similar to a CRC that's not necessarily universal, is same at the CTA level, depending on which company you're at. Some may have you very focused on filing documents in the trial master file. Some may have you doing contracts and budgets, vendor management. It can vary in what they do, but that is another generally an entry-level role. Now, there are both these roles. They have senior clinical research coordinators, they have senior CTAs, but you can come into these roles as an entry level. So you'd be looking for a clinical trial associate's one position. So those are more of the entry level. The other one that is on occasion entry level, and you may find people willing to take you on, is the in-house CRA. An in-house CRA is sort of similar to a CTA, and again, the job descriptions aren't 100% universal, so it might depend a little bit where you go. But if you come in as an in-house CRA, expect vendor management to be a big part, where you're dealing with the various vendors. You may also be dealing with the trial master file. You may be dealing with other aspects of the clinical trial process. So those are your entry level. Moving on, there are some that may be for people that have a lot of experience, not necessarily in clinical research, but experience in the work world. And I think one of the best experience in the work world positions to come in entry level is going to be as some form of project manager. So if you start, you generally go into an associate project manager. That would be my recommendation. This is especially good for people that don't want to travel and may have a lot of family considerations or considerations that they really want to stay home, but they also want to have the opportunity to grow their career. And that is who I would say is project management for them. The other role and the other option is to try and get a clinical research associate role or a CRA, a monitoring role. That's what I do. I think this is great for people that are single. Now, I've had plenty of coworkers that have had babies and dealing with family and all. I don't know how they do it. I am pretty much single and I can get on a plane anytime, and it's pretty tiring to me, and also managing any form of social life becomes challenging. Now, I should say I've done this. This is my 14th year, so I've made it work. But it's not something that I would say is for people that really want to be home and have a lot of commitments. Maybe you have an elderly parent, or you have children, or you have a spouse that just doesn't like you being away all the time. And that is going to be the case for most entry level, especially clinical research associate roles. In today's world, there's a lot of hybrid monitoring where some of it can be done at home, some of it on site. Just depends, but I would say just be prepared. About half the month, you're not going to be home. Even in the hybrid models, it tends to be more on site than remote. Now, in the COVID era, it was completely different, and there were places that just didn't let you on site. But I see this slowly going back to more and more on site. My preference is to do on site visits if available, or if the site does so. In my experience, remote visits take twice the amount of time to do the same amount of work. You need to be in touch with the site, they need to send stuff back and forth. It's just really challenging. So that is an option. So if you love to travel, you want to see the country, I think I've mentioned in several videos, I've been to 40 states, most of them through my job and monitoring in different states. I've also been based around the country. So as a monitor, you can pretty much be based wherever you like, as long as you're within 45 minutes generally of a major airport. So I've been based out of New York City. I've been based out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale. I've been based out of San Francisco. So it's an easy job. Just know that the salaries don't really change that much where you go. So you'll see pretty much a concentration of monitors in certain states like Florida. There's a ton of monitors in the state of Florida, primarily because of the no income tax, and it's generally easy to travel from here. So you're going to make close to the same regardless of where you are in the country. This may be slightly different if you go into contracting and you can negotiate your rates as being slightly higher if you're in a high cost of living area. But the variance is not that great. So you'll see concentrations of monitors in certain states. The other positions to consider, and I'll touch on these quickly, one of them is data management. If you really enjoy looking through data, analyzing it, and doing things that are more data focused, maybe you like stats and that aspect, data management is something to consider. Now, as a CRA, I interact with data management here and there. Generally, data management issues their own queries into the system. CRAs look at them and help sites respond, and then data management continues this process. So that is an option. The other two roles that I'll mention are quality assurance. If you're the person that catches all the mistakes, likes double checking works, and likes to really think about the way to enhance the quality of something, that is a role to consider. And then the final role that I'll talk about very briefly is regulatory. I think those who love regulatory, people that tend to be pretty introverted, really like to read and really enjoy regulations. So if that's you and you say, I don't really want to travel, I don't really want to deal with sites all that much, I love doing submissions to the FDA. I love learning about regulations. I love reading and that aspect of it. I think regulatory affairs is for you. All right, that is going to be a wrap for this video. Those are some of the positions you should consider. And if you want to know more about any of them, just mention down in the comments what you're interested in, and I can try and give you some of the other things you should consider. All right, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.